If you were given 2 bottles of water, 1 piece of cake and a mobile phone, how many days would you live at most? This man was so unlucky. He had just driven into a tunnel when it collapsed. Jack put his foot on the gas and tried to get out of the tunnel with speed. But the reality was harsh, because it collapsed in front of him too. When Jack woke up again, his face was covered in dust. With the slightest movement, the rocks on top of the car kept falling down. Thankfully, Jack found that his mobile phone was still working. He immediately called 911 and explained the situation. But today's operator was unusually unreliable. The operator thought it was just a few rocks falling from the tunnel. It took him a while to send someone over. When they saw what they were looking at, they were dumbfounded. The whole tunnel had collapsed. There wasn't a single crack left. Jack had been in there for a few minutes. He suddenly felt a little thirsty, so he grabbed a mineral water and poured it in. For the moment, he doesn't realize the seriousness of the situation. He finishes his drink. Then he picks up his phone and prepares to play a couple of games to relax. That's when a phone call came in. Jack was delighted. He thought it was the rescue team, but it was a reporter from the newspaper. The news of the tunnel collapse was already widely known. The reporter didn't want to miss out on such an exclusive story. The fire chief was furious when he found out. He grabbed the reporter's phone. He cut off the signal and deleted Jack's phone number. It wasn't that he was afraid of the reporter reporting the story. He was afraid that Jack's phone would run out of battery. If the victim was lost, the chances of being rescued would be very slim. After he drove the reporters away, the captain immediately contacted Jack. Captain Allen asked Jack what was going on inside. Jack said he was underneath one of the air vents. There were 2 bottles of water and a piece of buttercream in the car. The phone had 78% battery left. Once he understood the situation, Alan told Jack to eat the cake as soon as possible, but he had to save the water. Alan promised Jack he would get him out before the water ran out. After that, he told Jack to turn off his phone to save electricity. Every day at 12 noon, Jack would report on his condition. The second day Jack was trapped, the rescue team was on the move. They sent a large number of drones into the tunnel, but the drones didn't get very far. The signal was too weak and it fell to the ground. Alan had no choice but to do it himself. Alan entered the tunnel with his colleagues. The situation was even worse than he thought. While the captain was checking with his torch, the colleague suddenly sounded the horn and was startled. Alan was about to educate his colleague. He suddenly received a call from Jack. It turned out that Jack had heard the horn. To confirm Jack's position, the colleague honked the horn 5 more times. Jack said he had heard it again, but he wasn't happy for long. The horn sounded again and caused the collapse. Luckily, the captain was a good driver. He got out of the tunnel before it collapsed. I have to say, Jack had a hell of a life. The noise was so loud that nothing happened, and he got lucky. He saw the number on the air vent. Jack's location was confirmed. The rescue operation began. At the same time, Jack's wife arrived on the scene. The country's leaders took pictures with her. It was as if they were telling the world that they were working hard to rescue him. Jack has been trapped in the tunnel for 3 days. He carefully drank from a bottle cap. He took another bite of the few remaining cakes. Once he's had enough to eat and drink, he searches the car for some more supplies, a torch and a bottle of antiseptic water. At that moment, Jack heard a movement not far away. He picked up a stone and pulled it into his hand. Suddenly, a dog emerged from inside. He crawled down the hole. Jack found a woman trapped in there too. How slow the Korean rescue team is. The girl's chest was pinned by a boulder. There was a steel bar stuck in her belly. She can't do anything but talk because of a tunnel collapse. This is the 3rd day she has been trapped here. Luckily, Jack, who was also trapped, found her. The girl was so thirsty. She asked Jack if he had any water. Jack hesitated for a moment, but he went back to the car to get some. Looking at the only 2 bottles of water left, he wanted to hide the full one, but Jack had a good heart. In the end, he didn't do it. After the girl had finished her water, asked if he could give some to her dog too. Although Jack was reluctant to do so, but he did it anyway. After Jack had calmed the girl down, he went back to his car. Looking at the little bit of cake that was left, he only managed to take a small bite and fell asleep. But when he woke up again, he found that the dog had eaten the cake. This made Jack's blood pressure rise. The girl heard the scolding and she asked what had happened. All Jack could say was that he'd had a nightmare. A few more days passed. The girl was so weak she couldn't open her eyes. She asked Jack if he had any more water. Jack hesitated for a moment but went back to get it. When he returned to the girl's car, the girl had lost her life. Jack pushed the stone away and realized the girl's abdomen had been punctured by a steel bar. There was no food left. The water he had been drinking was spilled all over the floor. Although they say a man should be strong, but Jack cried anyway. He called and questioned Alan. "I thought you said you'd get me out of here before the water ran out." All Alan could do was tell him to wait. Wait a little longer. Just hang in there. We're going to get you out of here. Jack was half-hearted about his words. Luckily, God was helping him. By chance Jack saw something in the dog's mouth. He pulled it out and took a taste. It tasted really good. It turned out the girl had a bag of dog food in her car. One for each dog and one for each person. "But last time you ate my cake, so you'll have to share a little less." Although the food problem is solved, but it's not good enough without water. Jack was fiddling around in there. He happened to open the car door. Suddenly there's an open space outside. He looks around. He finds a fire hydrant, but there was no water in it. After another night, he was just too thirsty. Jack was prepared for the worst. He was going to drink his own urine, but he couldn't get it out of his mouth. And that's when there was a sudden sound of water dripping in the distance. He followed the sound. He found a steel bar dripping. He took a taste. It was fresh water and it was drinkable. Now that's good. The water problem was solved. He also has a little pet. Waiting for rescue is just around the corner. It's been 17 days now. Today is the day the tunnel will be dug. Everyone was waiting for good news. But Jack has been waiting for a long time and there's no rescue team in sight. What the hell is going on? Alan had done some searching. He finally found the problem. Although there were 7 vents on the plans, but the builders had cut corners by installing. Only 6 were installed. Everyone dug according to the plans, and they dug the wrong one. This is still 150 meters short of the actual distance of Jack's. That means the 10 days of work were wasted. It would take another 10 days to dig from scratch, not to mention the manpower and resources. There's a question as to whether Jack can carry on. When he heard the news, Jack was devastated. After all this time, all he had waited for was nothing. He made one last phone call to his wife. He finished his last words. His phone ran out of battery and he turned it off. The worst thing that could happen was that it suddenly started to snow outside. This made the rescue a lot more difficult. Alan tried to get a snowplow to come up here, but he was advised not to bother. In these conditions, Jack's chances of survival were almost nil.
그 사람! 그 한 명! 아직까지 살아있다고요! 얼마나 오랫동안 기다렸습니까?
That's when another accident happened. One of the rescuers was accidentally killed. This grandmother was so mean. She pelted the woman with eggs one after the other, and the woman didn't say a word. She just bent over and kept apologizing. The grandmother's son was killed in a rescue operation. The reason for his death was to save the woman's husband. The grandmother shouted, "How can you sacrifice my son's life to find your husband's body? Why should my son's life be sacrificed?" The woman's husband was called Jack. He had been trapped in the tunnel for over 20 days. Everyone on the outside thought he was dead. There was no need to waste any more manpower or resources to save a corpse. Even the leader came to tell his wife to give up. "Your husband must be dead." But the woman kept saying the same thing over and over again. What if he's still alive? Jack was, in fact, alive. But with the weather as bad as it was, he couldn't survive any longer. Jack had to listen to the car radio every day to find out what was going on outside. But just today, the voice of his wife came over the radio. She asked her husband if you were hungry or cold. "I don't know if you're still alive. I came here today to tell you there will be no more rescues. I also signed the waiver of rescue. I'm sorry, honey, you don't have to wait any longer." Hearing this news, Jack's eyes lit up with tears. He broke off the phone battery. He bit and slapped the phone. He tried to tell the world he was alive, but it was no use. The phone still wouldn't turn on. Jack saw that he couldn't wait for help, so he decided to find his own way out. He wanders around with a torch. Meanwhile, rescue leader Alan didn't want to give up on him either. He had promised Jack he would get him out. Even though the whole world was against him, he didn't want to give up. Alan took his probe and prepared to go down to the bottom to take another look. He took the probe and went to the deepest part, and Jack was trying to crawl his way out. Just as he was about to reach it, his teammate pulls him up. His hand shook and the probe fell in. The captain had just come up here. The team on the other side started blasting. There was a loud bang. Jack's side of the tunnel collapsed again. He and his dog were scrambling to get back. He ran to the car and honked the horn frantically. That's when the sensors responded. This was seen by the captain. They opened the lid of the rescue tunnel. Jack kept honking the horn. Finally they heard it. Alan told everyone to stop blasting. The rescue operation resumes. The 35th day of being trapped. Alan finally found Jack lying in the corner. He was successfully rescued. It was certainly another wave of publicity. The press were rushing to the scene. They surrounded Jack, just as Jack was about to get on the plane to the hospital. But he was told he had to wait, because the country's leaders hadn't arrived yet. It's such an important moment that they have to take a picture before they leave. At this point Jack leaned over and whispered something in Alan's ear. A reporter asked him what he had said. The captain hesitated for a moment but decided to tell everyone. Jack gave Alan a thumbs up and a nod of approval, and with this gesture it was taken by the nation as a thank you to the government for the rescue. The leader on the news also said life is bigger than everything. How ironic it sounded.